What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast, a show where we crack open some brewskis. And by that, I mean sparkling water and a mug root beer.
Spicy water and, I mean, isn't really root beer just flavored water if you think about it?
Yeah, there's just...
Isn't everything just flavored water?
There's really just more flavors you've got going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, brother, I just got off the fucking highway forever. I had to go pick the wife up from the airport.
Highway
so
to the danger zone?
Yeah, man. Holy shit. And this week has been buck wild, dude. I can't even tell you. There's been so much. I've done exactly nothing. But there's just been so many things, man.
One of those.
I have to ask you a question, okay?
Okay.
Let's say I show you my resume.
Okay.
And my resume says, I'm making this up, like Boston University, Bachelor of Science in such and such a thing. Sorry, Bachelor of General Sciences.
Okay.
Comma 2024-2026. How do you interpret that? Do I have a degree?
No.
Okay. What if I said on my resume, BGS, some whatever degree, 2006 -2008.
Yeah. I would assume.
Do I have a degree?
Yes. I would assume.
This week was one of the most savage cross-examinations I've ever seen in the Karen Reed trial.
Oh, okay.
Another one of the fucking Commonwealth of Massachusetts' witnesses. Last year, their like crash reconstruction expert.
Oh yeah.
Didn't know what inertia was. Now this is the guy that's supposed to do the like.
I remember some banger quotes coming out of that guy.
I did not do a formula.
Yeah.
You know, that guy, the I did not do a formula guy who didn't know what velocity, acceleration, or inertia was. He doesn't have a physics degree, but they did some physics in his classes. Didn't know that kinetics was like a subset of physics. Didn't know. Yeah, just real bad, extremely bad. Okay. Actually, he was the guy that was hit with the whole exactly.
Okay.
Sorry, did I say kinetics? Kinematics.
They have a new.
It's been a long day.
So there's another one, a new stand-in for that guy.
Yeah. So this guy was a digital forensics expert from this company called Aperture Science, not Aperture Science, but I'd like to, in my head, think that the cake is in fact a lie. Well, the cake isn't a lie, but his resume is a lie.
Okay.
So they basically hit him with like 900 questions. He had in previous trials, one of them was like in 2023, as an expert witness. Part of the expert witness, like you have to establish you're an expert. They go through this whole thing. And part of that is like your CV, your resume. Yeah. He got removed from this previous thing. So they're grilling him about like, have you ever been removed from all this stuff? Basically his resume is in like 9 forms in different places. His LinkedIn just said Bachelor of Science from some college.
Okay.
With a degree that doesn't exist. With the years like 2006 to 2008. His resume for this trial said currently pursuing.
Yeah.
His resume on the website of his where he works that was linked said it had like a year range in the past.
Okay.
Might have been like 2016 to 2018 or something. So he had his LinkedIn, like 5 different copies of his resume. Basically, it was one of those situations where, like, you know how if you do like 3 hours of community service on like a field trip in 5th grade, you're like community service, boys and girls club, right?
Yeah.
Every kind of pads their resume,
of course, you know, naturally.
But you do that when you're like 19, trying to get your first like fucking internship. You don't do that when you are an expert witness for a digital forensics adjacent company. And basically, like, he's been attempting this bachelor's degree. Well, first of all, a Bachelor of General Science is not a degree. Okay. BGS is Bachelor of General Studies. It's not a Bachelor of Science. It's not like a science degree.
Yeah.
But that was a typo.
Yep.
And all of the other previous ones, he had kind of an argument around, like, the implication when you put a range of years, if 1 year is in the future, the implication would be that you are currently enrolled and that's your expected graduation date.
Yeah.
The problem is that what happens when you like submit that thing with those years and then time passes?
Yeah.
It in perpetuity gives the impression that you had the degree.
Yep.
Without like referencing the date. So it's like really messy. But basically, this guy was grilled for like 2 days straight. I've never seen anyone turn so red.
Dang.
Basically just about how, like, not only did he not have like a bachelor's degree, which is like not even a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not even like honestly, some of like the top 5 list of engineers that I worked with, I would say 3 of them did not have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah. It's like, it's not like you can't be smart if you don't have a degree.
No.
It's just
now, if you're going to be like
people on as if you have a degree if you don't have a degree.
Yeah. Now, if you're going to be a brain surgeon,
yeah.
If you're going to be, you know, like a theoretical physicist, like working at a Yale or something, like,
yeah.
you probably should have like a master's degree, you know.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like certain engineering fields, mostly software, I would think that like structural engineers, if you're designing a bridge, if you're designing a bridge, I would hope you have a bachelor's degree.
Fair. Fair.
But anyway, they were just grilling him, and it was just hours and hours of this guy getting grilled in front of the entire world. And then of course, like 5 o'clock rolls around, they stop court, and he has to come back the next day. And like the company like removed the links from their website to his like CV and his LinkedIn. It was just, it was so painful. It was a nightmare. And that was like
brutal.
That was like the most cringeworthy thing ever, dude.
Dang. That's no bueno.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what the last couple of days were
that was this
about.
Week, what they were doing in the trial. So they're cross-examining him to be a witness later. Is that what the...
No, so this is like the Massachusetts, it was their witness. So they had basically said like, what was your report that you did about, it had to do with comparing the cell phone. So here's the interesting thing. It was a really interesting thing. And honestly, his report wasn't bad. And I honestly don't think it was wrong.
Yeah.
But it was just like, you know, if you're a defense attorney, you have to,
of course,
it's all about doubt, cast doubt everywhere.
Yeah.
Because the prosecution has the burden of proof.
Yes.
The defendant they don't have any burden of proof. They're innocent until proven guilty.
Yep.
But so you have like the dead guy's cell phone that has like location data.
Yep. Okay.
And then you have the defendant's SUV, which is alleged to have hit him, that has all kinds of information, like kind of black box data, related to it. And what they basically talked about for 2 days was, let's say you have location data that indicates that you drove past the house that you were intending to go to. You like kind of pull over and do like a 3-point turn and turn around and go back and stop.
Yep.
Which is like minutes before the alleged murder happened.
Yep.
And then on the victim's phone, you have Waze location data showing you the 3-point turn and you go back. Well, what happens when the phone says it happened at like, I'm making the time up, but like 12:30 a.m. and the car says 12:31 a.m. and 30 seconds. What you can then determine from that is roughly, well, now we are able to correlate events from the car, computer, and the events from the phone and know that they're 90 seconds off. So now we can synchronize those clocks to figure out when other things might have happened.
Yeah.
And that's what they were debating about. There's this whole different clock synchronization thing, and they have like 2 experts on one side, 2 experts on the other side, changing reports, flip-flopping, all this stuff. It's like, and along with the Google search stuff that we've talked about, dude, it makes me so scared that like the more complicated technology gets, the more things like murder trials are going to come down to people who may or may not be experts, who are indistinguishable. Like a fraud scam artist is indistinguishable to a layman from a real expert. And what you have is whoever's the most compelling salesman on the stand can determine who goes to jail for murder or not, because you've got a bunch of layman schmucks in, that are 18 jurors.
It's almost like full circle, right? Like back in the day, it was just arguments about like he said, she said. And so the better arguer could win. Then we got like DNA and like hair. And it was like, we know this guy's out of here. And now our evidence and proof is so complicated that it's back to whoever can tell the most compelling argument about the mumbo jumbo that is proof of one thing or another. So it's like we're back full circle. The evidence is so far removed from the layman's understanding of how the world works, which is just a result of science and technology going crazy.
Yeah. And even the DNA stuff, dude, the DNA stuff took days and days and days and days to go through, because it's like we swabbed the hole on his shirt that was almost definitely like the German Shepherd's teeth when he's having his arm latched onto.
Yeah.
But so they swabbed that and did like a DNA analysis. And what they find is, there's 3 sets of DNA on this thing. They have a known sample from the victim and a known sample from the defendant. And when they do the analysis, the result is the chances that this sample represents 3 random people not involved in the case is like, 1 in 73 nonillion. And then they have to say, okay, well, what's nonillion? It's like, it's 1 with 37 zeros or whatever. Okay, well, what are the chances, that... So it was like 1 in 30 nonillion, whatever the number was, that it wasn't the victim and 2 other random people versus 3 random people. So it's like, so all you've done is say that the victim's DNA is on the victim's shirt.
On his shirt. Yeah.
But it's did you test the like guys who the defense is claiming were probably beat him to death? Well, no, they didn't. So it's like, what is this? What is this even? And it's like, does that? And you have to go through all this weird shit where it's like, they can only ask certain questions. They can't make argument when they're cross-examining. So they have to say like, can you rule out that it might have been possibly someone else?
Dude,
we can't.
That
so
stuff
convoluted.
Makes me I hate that shit so much, bro. Holy.
It's wild, dude. It's wild. So it's just like, it's horrifying.
That is truly horrifying.
At some point, it's going to be like Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and like a Yale physicist debating on whether or not like quarks can modify.
Are any of us really here? Dude, oh my gosh. That's crazy. I mean, that literally is like the worst nightmare right now, is to be involved in something like that. Because, I don't even want to talk about it. It's just crazy. But I mean, continuing to be a compelling and entertaining story nonetheless, except real people's lives are going to be determined by this. So we'll see how she goes.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know. They've got like 5 days off or something, like a super long weekend. So I'm going to be jonesing for a while.
Yeah. Damn.
But yeah. But I've got like a million little things to talk about. I don't know what's been going on with you, man. What's new?
Dude, we were playing Gray Zone Warfare today. There was a big update to Gray Zone. Haven't played Gray Zone in a long time. We played a little bit last week, but as a result of this update, I'll kind of talk about it. But yeah, haven't really. Gray Zone came out around this time-ish last year. You and me played a little bit. We had Mara on the podcast. You know what I mean? And while it was fun, I think the general consensus for a lot of people, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I think that this sentiment was shared with a lot of people, which is that like game's got a lot of potential, kind of getting in its own way in a couple places. We just need to let them cook. Obviously, you know, you have the internet doing the internet things where like some people really enjoyed the game and have been playing ever since. Some people, you know, went on a warpath being like, if I ever hear this game's name out of anyone's mouth, I'm going to lose my mind. But that's natural. That wasn't anything crazy. Most people were like, we'll let them cook. You know what I mean? That maybe they released a little too early. And then I really haven't played it since. They did a big update a couple months ago, like before the Tarkov wipe, and I played like one day of that. And it was like they added the night, you know, like day-night cycle. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, but whatever. It wasn't compelling enough for me to come back. This update, basically what they did was they swapped some of their update structure around, and they were like, hey, let's add more to do. Let's add more content. Instead of adding more like lore or mechanics, like let's give the people who are playing our games more things to do. And basically what that resulted in was like a lot more, a lot more agency and a lot more things to do. A lot of people are calling this the PvP update, and that's actually like probably a good description, but I don't want that description to scare people away because all
the PvE enjoyers.
Well, not just the PvE enjoyers, but like I don't want it to scare away the people that don't just want to hop on and for 9 hours be PvPing like some of us do. You know what I mean? What I really like about this update is they added like 50 additional reasons and ways to engage in PvP, and all of them are very like signaled. So if you want a PvP, you can go engage. If you're like, hey, I really want to get some quests done because then I can get Gunny level 3 and I can get the Voodoo Scope and I really just want to focus on quests, you can kind of like gauge where the PvP zones are on the map. So
gotcha, okay.
They added like 30 new points of interest, and they're called COPs, Combat Outposts, COP.
Okay.
And each one can be claimed by a faction. You go wipe out all the AI that are there, and then you like claim that. And then while it's under your faction's control, you can respawn there and you can access your stash from there. And so whenever you die, it'll offer you to spawn way back at your base or at the closest cop that your faction owns.
Feels like Battlefield.
Yeah, which meant that I took approximately 92% less helicopter rides today than when Gray Zone first came out, which was that was a huge thing. It was literally just like helicopter ride after helicopter ride. But as long as you're like, oh, well, I have a quest here, let's go take that cop first, and then it's like, then I died and I can just like run down. Great. And then the cops, you can contest them. So if another faction holds it, we can go there, kill the AI, kill any players in the area, then we can claim it. So there's like a push-pull where like certain cops in certain like really advantageous positions are like really contested all the time. And it's like PvP all the time. And then additionally, anytime two players fight, it draws a circle on the map, a red circle. So anytime.
How does that determine? Is it by gunfire? Is it by like when they get hit?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's hits actually. But anytime two players of opposing factions fight, it's like, hey, like we're reporting, activity in this area, and if it's just two people and they die, the circle goes away relatively quickly. It doesn't want to like bait people into thinking there's PvP there all the time. But the more PvP, the circle, like more circles will start to pop up and it gets like darker and darker. So, it's
on the map.
It's on the map and everyone can see it. So once again, if you're like, I want PvP, open up the map. If there's a bunch of circles, go there and you're going to PvP. If you don't want to PvP and you're like, hey, I have a quest in that area, you might look at the map and go, I want to go do something else.
I wonder if the map's probably big enough that this would never happen, but it would be funny if like so many people wanted to avoid PvP that like what you're doing is you're filtering the people to the areas that aren't the circles, which might have a lot of overlap. Yeah. So it's like you get a bunch of people who don't want to PvP together.
Probably like it's probably able to happen. Yeah, for sure. But so that gives you like, that the cops, the PvP hotspots, and the ability to now most quests when you're out in the field and you complete it, you can turn it in. You're basically radioing back like, hey, I killed the boss. You wanted me to kill the boss? You can turn it in while you're out there and then get the next quest. Except for a few that are like, hey, bring this thing to me. Then you have to go and you have to bring it back. Or, hey, pick this thing up for me and deliver it somewhere. Then you have to go and get it and bring it out. But so like 70...
I wish Tarkov had that.
So like 70% of the quests you can turn in and then accept the next ones out in the field. You can always at least have the ability to spawn somewhere close to where you are, as long as you're smart enough to be like taking the cops near you.
Yeah.
So those couple changes alone dramatically changed how the game plays. Dramatically. The helicopter rides are so much less annoying because you're taking them so much less frequently. They're shorter. And they're shorter. I got into more PvP today than I did probably the first 2 weeks I played. But I wanted it. Like we had a couple moments where like we were contesting this and like every time we die, we would spawn and run in, and every time they die, and it was like we both really wanted this, and there were tons of bodies, and it was like really fun PvP around this area.
And so presumably those things would be popping up, I would think, often where they're too far. Like too far for you to hear the gunshots.
Oh, like sometimes. I mean, it depends. Yeah. You can only hear gunshots so far away. So
yeah. So I'm just wondering if, like, given the traversal time, does it pop up on the map? Because I remember you had to like hit a key to open the map.
Yeah.
Right. Like it didn't show it all the time.
Correct.
So is there an indication when the map isn't open?
Yes.
Or do you have to open it constantly?
Dude, bro. They did a 5-day playtest where only content creators were allowed to play, and they gave us accounts that were super juiced. Basically unlimited money, unlimited gear, all the traders unlocked, and it was like, hey, go showcase the patch. In that playtest, there's a guy on the radio, and he would give updates on all 30 POIs. Anytime.
Is he a content creator?
No, it was literally like built into the game. It was just anytime.
Oh.
Anytime any one of your team contested any cop anywhere, or anytime anyone contested any cop your faction owned, dude, it got so bad that Gray Zone was even like retweeting streamers crashing out. Like I literally couldn't hear. I stopped playing the playtest almost because of that, because it was nonstop. It was
that would piss me off.
It was dude. Awful. We were all like, dude, I actually don't know how this made it past QA. It was crazy. But in this playtest, it's the radio guy only announces within like a 1,500 meter radius of you, which is much, literally, like I didn't even notice the radio guy being annoying to me at all today. So
that's a cue for you to open up the map to see what's going on.
Exactly.
And then by the time that would, I'm presumably would be close enough for you to get there while it's still hot, or would it be like there'd just be a bunch of bodies and the guy would be gone?
Most of the time you could get there while it was still hot, or it had just happened, and because now they have that cop, they're most likely like looting the bodies, depoting the loot, so they stick around for a few minutes most of the time. So you can,
and other people are presumably going to that same area.
Exactly. So it's pretty sick. So those changes alone really dramatically change how the game is played. And like, once again, there's more, like some people today were just questing all day. We were doing basically 50-50. We would always have a quest in mind that we were trying to do. But if like a PvP opportunity came up, which is going to extend the time I engage with the game a lot because I'm going to get the quests done a lot slower because I like to be a player that's basically 50-50. I want to progress because I want the higher tier traders because that's where you get all the juice. But me and Hambino can't turn down a good opportunity to, hey, they're trying to take our cop. Let's go fuck them up. You know what I mean? So it was a really fun balance between the two.
Was there a big difference between like which faction controlled like 50%?
Well, you can only see all the cops on the map are blue if you have them, gray if no one has them, and red if an enemy has them. So there's always more red ones, but you can't ever really tell who's got who.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But so it was pretty cool. So that was added. The weather system was added, which they do really well. Like overcast, rain, super like heavy rain, monsooning. It interacts with the jungle really well. It interacts with like the environment really well. It's pretty cool. They added that. They added like mortars. You can like mortar strike certain locations, which is crazy. They added a lot more quests. They added some loot. They added body dragging, which is huge because like it's not every time, but you have a chance to go into a coma instead of going full dead. And so
that happened to me.
Yeah.
Once.
So now you can like if Ham is in a coma, I can like smoke the body and then drag it to like a better location to heal him. So like that's really cool.
Is it clunky or does it feel okay?
It feels really good. Yeah, it feels really good. There's a couple of places where like you have to grab them by the neck. So if they die in a way that like their neck is in between something, it can be hard to get them.
It's like a hitbox.
Yeah,
thing.
but once you grab them, it feels good. You're just like dragging them through. It's pretty sick. So I'm trying to think of what else were added. Guns were added. The MP7, which is so hot. The MCX, smooth zooming on scopes. Yeah. Oh, and they've adjusted the AI quite a bit. The AI were really bad, in my opinion. They were just like one tap you out of nowhere. It's a lot better. It's still kind of like, so like these are just like things, right? The weather system is sick, but as the weather changes, me as the player, my visibility goes down, right? When it gets dark and overcast and rainy, it's harder for me to like spot AI, but of course their visibility doesn't go down. So sometimes there were like a few hours at a time where I'd be like, dude, the AI feel really good. They're peppering me up. They're making me, use consumables. They knocked me out. I was in a coma. My friend helped me. They killed me once or twice, but they didn't feel too bad. But then it starts to rain and it's like, it just feels unfair all of a sudden when I can't see any of them, but they can still see me, So it's like, there were a few moments like that, but overall the AI were much better. So I think everything in this patch, I think with the exception of one or two things, I think everything they added to this patch added to the game, enhanced the game, made the game better. I don't know what like the end game is yet. It's like you can do a lot of the quests to unlock a lot of the traders, but once you have enough money and have the traders unlocked, I mean, I guess you could make this argument for Tarkov too, to be fair, but it's just like you just kind of you just kind of run around in PvP to like no end. There's not like a thing you get if you control all the cops. There's always going to be people questing. So it's like, I'm interested to see what that is. I'm not, once again, this is like their third patch since the game came out. So I'm not saying they have to have a fully finished, fledged out end game. The whole big center of the map, the ground zero, like that's not in yet. That's understandable. But I wonder, I mean, the patch definitely has me like way more interested in coming back and playing more outside of like the drops campaign than ever before. So they're definitely moving in the right direction. I think ultimately though, so I'm used to Tarkov, which means the criticism I'm used to giving of the game is things that are broken, things that there is an intention for, and then the thing is not working to that intention, right? Things that are broken, like, somebody's running and there's no sound. What I think I'm coming to is an understanding that a lot of my feedback for Gray Zone is subjective. It's not my car has a flat tire. I prefer vanilla ice cream, and I think they want to be an ice cream company that makes chocolate. Does that make sense?
Okay.
That's kind of like, so we're going to go into some things that I think hold the game back from its true potential for me, but I've actually been trying to make a concerted effort to like preface that criticism with like, that doesn't mean them doing this thing is objectively bad. And that's how I'm normally viewing criticism, because it's like when Tarkov is like, I'm desyncing around corners, or like the player has no audio. I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. But this is more, they maybe want to be an ice cream factory that makes chocolate, and I prefer vanilla. So I might not eat as much ice cream from there. So with that being said, I think what holds the game back is it's overly committed to the realism, which is not a surprise. It's what they said a lot in the past. I am just, it's just not my flavor, man. It's just not my flavor. They worked really hard to make the night vision in the game feel a lot like night vision in real life.
Oh yeah,
it's like
you
dirty,
can't like ADS, right?
It's like dirty and grungy, and 50% of the stuff you're seeing is out of focus, and like the way it interacts with light, and it can get broken if you get shot at. You can get like cracks start to form, and it does weird stuff where like it messes with your field of view or your zoom. Like you have like the monocle, and that's zoomed in a little bit, but you have your peripheral vision. It's not just like black. So you actually have like two different zoom levels while you're walking around. It's not very good. And I've had a lot of people. I mean, I had people that were like, bro, this is like giving me PTSD. Like I was in the Marines. This is the best adaptation I've ever seen a video game do. That's cool. To me, it's hot ass and makes me nauseous 10 seconds in, because I can't see anything and I can't focus on anything. And I got two different zooms and it makes me nauseous. And I'm like, so when it turns nighttime, I don't want to play for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the medical system in the game is like, shoot me in the face. Like it's just so much. Like an AI will pepper you, and I have to do surgery on 3 different limbs. I have to splint something. I have to give myself blood. I've got blurry vision. I'm vomiting. I'm 78% of the way. I'm doing a surgery, okay, which takes 3 business days, and I'm zipping up. I've done the surgery, and I'm zipping up my surgery kit, and I'm 70% of the way zipped up, and then I vomit, so it cancels the surgery. And it's like, even once you understand it, once you understand the medical system, it's cool, man. It's like, it's not about HP. It's about vital organs, and it's about like putting yourself back together, and you need blood, but it just takes so long to get back in the fight if somebody shoots you. And that just doesn't feel fun. I don't want to spend 3 full minutes in a bush in the jungle.
You don't want to play Surgeon Simulator while you're...
I don't want to spend 3 full minutes in a bush in the jungle after one engagement while everyone on comms is like, there's another guy. He's north. And I'm like, I'm stuck.
You're like, cool.
Yeah, literally. And it's loud. And the amount of times that I've like killed a guy, backed off to heal, and then they just find you because you're hacking up a lung. There's no teammate indicators, and I hate that very much in this game. So technically there's armbands now. Everyone on your faction has a blue armband, but there are many situations where you can't see them or they're too far away to see. And a lot of people have made the argument that like Tarkov doesn't have teammate indicators, but the difference is you spawn with everyone in your team in a Tarkov raid, right?
Yeah.
You guys spawn together, and then you go. Yeah, most of the
hopefully.
time. And then you go and do your thing. The thing about Gray Zone is that like if me and Ham and Valiant and Gino are playing, that's our squad. We're in Discord. There are 12 other people in our faction that would be considered friendly fire on the map. And sometimes if we're in an engagement, they'll roll up to try to help.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, right? It's like in Tarkov, you're aware of where your squad is at all times. It's like if in Tarkov, there was a 20% chance the enemy, like, I guess a good way to put it is like, everybody likes that there's no teammate indicators in Tarkov, but everybody freaked the fuck out when they thought PMC karma was going to be you can't kill someone in your same faction. My tab just unmuted. Sorry. And so that is like what it is, right? Where like somebody swings a corner and you shoot them, and it was a friendly, but it wasn't anyone in your squad. It was a friendly that showed up to try to help. And so what you end up with is like, we got into this circle. So this is one situation. I almost sent like the devs this clip and was just like, is this kind of what you guys want? I'm not trying to like, if you want the realism thing, that's totally fine. We captured a cop. We were on our way out to go capture another one. We got into an engagement. I heard our teammate firing at someone. I checked my map to see where the teammate was, and I was going to swing around him to try to help. He turns around, freaks out, lights me up. I have to do now 63 different medical things. And he's like, he's VoIPing. He's like, I'm sorry. I was like, it's okay. Help them. Like, go fight. I'm surgerying. 2 minutes later, the fight is over. They won. We won. I'm halfway done with my thing. Okay. So I said, Hamvino, come here, shoot me in the face. And he killed me. And then I spawned right at the cop we were at, and I just ran and looted my body because that was so much faster than finishing the half of the amount of heals. So my teammate shoots me. I missed the fight, and I still ended up just having my other teammate finish the job. So that was a moment where I was like, this was like so close. And I feel like if there were teammate indicators so that people knew where their friendlies were, if the healing system wasn't so realistic, you know what I mean? Like and so like we're already seeing, it's not like a bug, I guess, but we're seeing people are calling it the contrast bug. If you slide your contrast down to like 30% at night, it basically, you can see almost as well as the day. And so I was telling that to Hambino. I was like, if people are adjusting their settings at night so they don't have to use night vision, and if people are killing themselves to run back to their bodies so they don't have to engage with the health system, I was like, I think that some changes should be made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Once again, the nods are cool if you like the realism thing. The no teammate indicators, in theory, creates really tense moments where you have to figure out who's who, right? But in practice, for me, it's chocolate ice cream and I'm looking for vanilla.
Yeah, well, and when a number of your player, like some meaningful percentage of your player base establishes a meta to get around game mechanics you've designed, that is kind of indicative that like your player base might not like that feature.
I agree. And I think that it's a like a conflict thing where disparate game mechanics are in conflict with each other, because one of the things that makes Gray Zone unique is that the jungle is very dense. It feels like I'm walking through like an actual rainforest jungle. It is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly dense. That does not play well. Like, because I've had a lot of people ask, like, well, Arma doesn't have teammate indicators. And immediately I go, you're absolutely right. You can see someone 50 meters away from you in Arma. And then you can scope in on them and see if they have an armband. If you're in the jungle, the engagement distance is nuts to butts. Because you can't see, the jungle is so thick, you can't see 5 meters in front of you.
Yeah.
So even when you hear people, it's really hard to find someone, which means when someone flies out of a bush, you're stuck in that circle where like I hesitated because I went to see if he was a friendly. He killed me. Next time I was pissed, so I didn't hesitate, but it was a friendly, so I killed them. And then when you kill a friendly, you're marked as an aggressor. which means if you die, you can't loot your own body. And so then what happens is, what I do is I ask Hambino, can you loot my body and throw my gear on the floor? But if you take the loot off of your teammate, you become an aggressor. So I can't loot my body because I'm an aggressor. So I get Ham to loot my body and then throw my gear on the floor. Now Ham's an aggressor. And the circle just like never ends. So the jungle and the map and the environment have been, it's really cool. I don't think they should change the environment. I would rather them just had teammate indicators. Then you don't have to change the jungle. The jungle's super thick. That's dope. You know what I mean? But like, that's where I'm at, where like they've got these disparate game mechanics that if you put one on the table and look down at it, each one you're like, that's sick, dude. That's sick. And like when you're in a boardroom, you could be like, yeah, players will have to like radio and ask like, oh, is that you? They'll have to check the map. And in a boardroom, you're like, that's so sick. But then when you take all those things and you put them in a game, you have in less than 48 hours, people adjusting their contrast so they don't have to play with nods. They're like, yo, just kill me so I can, like, they're already bypassing those mechanics. And so that's where I worry a little bit about Gray Zone, that I think they want their game to have mass appeal. They're doing Twitch Drops campaign and support a streamer and these big marketing pushes. But then in the nuts and bolts of the game, they're committed to a level of realism that I wonder if the masses are going to vibe with. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's like, I don't want to poo-poo them. They're making the game they want to make. And in a lot of ways, it's really different and unique and has a lot of potential. But for me, I think those are the ways in which the game gets in its own way and creates the worst. A good game is good. A bad game is bad. A game that takes you to the threshold of good and then shoots you in the foot, that's worse than a bad game.
Yeah, because you don't at least have hope.
Yeah. You have these moments where, like, I'm like, if that one thing, if I could have just, like, I spent 72 minutes going on, like, a flank, and I have the guys and this and that, and it's like the whole plan comes together, and then some dude comes flying out of a bush, and I thought it was Hambino, and it wasn't, and then we die, and you're like, we were so close to something cool. Not that I would have won the fight, maybe we would have lost the fight, but you know what I mean? Or like your friend accidentally shoots at you, and then you have to spend so long healing, you miss the fight. It's just stuff like that. So who knows? They might take feedback from the community. It'll be interesting if other people share that feedback. They might make changes. They might not. I want them to make the game they want to make. It's just, there's a couple of areas where it's really chocolate and I was looking for vanilla, but that's more, I'm going to say that's a me problem and just kind of leave it at that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that is kind of, Gray Zone. Overall, like I said, to TLDR the patch, everything they added, sans the vomiting, they added the vomiting, and I think that guy should be fired. Everything they added to this game in this patch was all great. Like, none of those things I'm complaining about weren't already here, right? The health system was already that way. There were no teammate indicators. The jungle was super thick. Everything they added in this patch was great. So if you liked Gray Zone in the past and you're interested to see, like, every bit was a step in the right direction. It just, the more you engage with PvP, the more you engage with the game in that way, some of those other things may present themselves more frequently. So yeah. And before we move on and talk about some other things, I do want to take a quick second and thank the sponsor for this episode, and that is Ridge Wallet. Dude, the Ridge Wallet is sick. The one that they sent us, I got the like carbon steel one or whatever.
Oh my God, I forgot mine upstairs.
Yeah, dude.
Yo, talk, I'm grabbing it.
Okay. The wallet is awesome. It's like the perfect mixture of like minimalist wallet, but a lot of actual utility. I had a minimalist wallet for a while that like magneted on the back of my phone, but it genuinely, like, I had to shove in like my ID and 2 credit cards, which I just like to carry more things than that. So this is like the perfect balance of like, show it. it's super duper classified as like a minimalist watch, but you can shove. I mean, how many cards do you have in there right now? Like 7, 8?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Wow.
2 credit cards, license. I actually have, there's like a little kind of spacer card that kind of
yeah.
that I have in there, like extra in there, because I have a couple of things kind of snuck in.
Yep.
I've got my insurance card.
Yep.
And it's all just,
it's the perfect balance of like minimalist wallet but maximum utility. You got what is that, like the Damascus steel one or something? That's sick, bro.
Yeah, it's like burnt. What is it? Blued, burnt. I forget the name of it.
Yeah.
But dude, it's so sick.
Yep.
And I love that because of how small it is, you don't have the annoying. I don't even feel it in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have like the weird kind of bulge.
Yep. Seriously, it's everything I want out of like a wallet now. Small, minimal, carries a lot, easy to access everything too. That's the other thing, is I had a wallet. I had like a minimalist wallet that I could only fit a couple cards into. And it was like, if I wanted the second card, you just have to take the first card out to get to the second card. If you wanted the third card, you have to take everything out of the wallet. Like that little push up that kind of like fans them out. And then you can just like pick out the one you want. That's super nice too. They have a ton of colors, a ton of different materials, over 50 colors and styles. And it's not just about wallets. They also create premium everyday essentials like key cases, suitcases, and rings, all with the same sleek, durable design. They've got a like, I don't know what it's called, but like a no jingle key ring where like it adds tension to the keys. And then you can just like push the tension rod back and add more keys. And then that way, whether you have 3 keys or 7 keys, they don't jingle jangle around. They just like all fit in this thing and you can throw it in your pocket. That thing is sick as well. And no matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping and a 99-day risk-free trial and a lifetime warranty on all of its products. So right now, Ridge is having their huge Memorial Day sale. You can get up to 40% off at ridge.com/pogcast. That's ridge.com/pogcast. To see their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Once again, up to 40% off at ridge.com/pogcast. Thank you so much to Ridge for sponsoring this episode.
Indeed.
Bazinga.
You know, the best indicator of quality in a product is the packaging. When you get the packaging and you're like, this is like thick, robust, high quality. Oh my God. Yeah. And that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, wow, this is nice packaging.
Yep. So that's the Gray Zone stuff. Not a whole lot of other gaming stuff. Like nothing really happening in Tarkov.
Yeah, so there's two things I wanted to talk about real quick at Tarkov. First of all, there's something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. I had to post something in my Discord and pin it. And I was like, what have I pinned in my Discord? And I clicked on the pins and I scrolled down to like 3 pins ago. And what I saw was a pinned message from one of my mods, Lennon, who I haven't seen in a bit. He posted December 3rd, 2020.
Oh.
Now I'll read the messages before this, and then I'll read the one that was pinned. So someone said something about Tarkov being ambitious, something about like the vision. Tarkov just feels like Nikita is getting tired. He's exhausted. This is December of 2020. I mean, we can tell there's only so much they can bring into and shape this game to something. And then my fucking mod, IDK, I think they can still pull it off. Calling it now, 1.0 release, mid 2022. And he pinned it. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Like, putting my stake down, baby.
Oh my God.
2022.
So you were just like, what have I pinned to this channel before? And you see one of your mods like, I'm calling my shot, 1.0 mid 20. Oh my.
And it's so funny because it's like, that's what they're shooting for. You lost me at 2022. We are going into 2021 in less than half a month. Didn't Nikita say something about the release at that time? We still need streets whenever that is. open world, suburbs, karma, VoIP, terminal, town, lighthouse, possibly arena, armor rework. Then locations get stick together in between. I mean, maybe late 2022, possible 23 to 25 period. The fucking auction house that everyone forgot about.
Yo, what even was that supposed to be?
I don't know, dude. The bang and clear. Remember, like when you go to interact with the door and there's like 19 things
Flash
in there?
and clear,
like,
bang and clear, open slowly.
Slow opening.
Yeah.
There's so many elements of the game that need add. I genuinely don't see the game being done until 2024.
Bro, what a time to be alive that the cynical people said 2024.
Granted, the game will be miles different mid 2022. We will have a different game. We have the same game.
We have
now.
the same game, dude. I mean, it is different in a lot of ways. It's the same in a lot of ways.
Out of raid heals, new weapons, weight system, bleeds. Wait, bleeds? I don't know what the fuck that's about. Interchange lighting rework in 2020.
Dude, that is actually funny. Like, that is so good. We're still waiting on half of those things.
Yeah, dude. Now, but a lot of those things, you know, granted, we do have
a lot of them we do. Yeah.
So it's so funny, like the 2 Tarkov things that are from me.
Whoa.
So I don't know. Do you know Darth microtransactions?
I have seen some of their stuff recently, but I haven't engaged with their content a lot.
He's a super cool guy. He was like one of the few people literally ever that received a shout out from like a React video, namely Asmongold, that then blew up because of it.
Oh, that's sick.
He went from being like, I don't want to like downplay how big he was before because I genuinely don't know, but like relatively unknown to then being like 3,000 average viewer Andy after Asmongold reacted to a few of his videos. Honestly, most of the time that never ends up happening, and kind of the And I don't necessarily have like a problem with a lot of the React stuff. Some of it's worse than others, but that's just kind of like the myth generally that like that someone reacts to your video and it's like, no, usually what happens is people end up getting used to, if you react to like all the things, then they're just like, I'm not going to watch the original. I'll wait until this guy reacts to it. And it doesn't usually end up being anything. Anyway, so DM, really great content creator. Previously was more focused on like Diablo, Path of Exile adjacent stuff.
Okay.
That's where he was known for. So
and that makes sense for an Asmongold React.
Yeah.
If he was, yeah.
And on May 19th, I don't know, did you see this?
I saw something about they were trying Tarkov for the first time.
He tweeted, "Holy shit, Escape from Tarkov is actually insanely fun. Where has this game been my whole life?" And I retweeted it, and it's actually incredibly funny how many people don't understand what I mean by this. And I just retweeted it and said, "Oh, my sweet summer child." And the number of people that were like,
he's not your kid.
just let it happen. The jaded vet who quit so long ago.
Yeah, people are weird,
that
man.
You know, life the game where it's a chore, that's your own problem. Just let them have this moment. Let people enjoy things. It's like, I wasn't remotely saying don't play, don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't know like what people think the implication of like, oh, my sweet summer child. Like, how do you interpret that when you see someone say that?
Oh, like literally just like, oh, you're about to find out, like, oh, he's not ready or something like that. It's
like, it's basically like, oh, the way it's intended is like, oh, how little you know what you're getting into kind of thing, which is like, you could literally say that about League of Legends, say that about CSGO, say that about
I can explain what's happening. And to be honest, this phenomenon is not wholly unjustified, but I've noticed this quite a bit recently. So like, I'll be the first to admit that 2025 was progressively a worse year 2024 was progressively a worse year for me mentally. And I think in 2024, were some of my lowest points in terms of like every time I died, I was like, throw the hands up, eye roll, this game sucks, like stupid bitch ass devs game bad suck. I let it get to me. And the end of 2024, I really realized that, and I hated that, and I hated what it was doing to my content. 2025, I've been working on that a lot. But what I've realized since then, as someone who's been like made a much more concerted effort to just be like, I play video games for a living, and I play Tarkov, and the game sucks sometimes, but that's okay. Like, we're having a good time. Is there's a subset of the community that has gotten so used to negativity that anything that's not like shining bright light positivity is interpreted as the negativity.
Yeah.
Where like I'll say the most innocuous, like, man, that was frustrating to die like that, man. But that was like a really good fight. Like me and that guy were playing. I wish I had heard the scav or whatever, but like, oh, that was a sick raid. That was a sick raid. And then it's like, just play another game. Jesus Christ. All you do is complain. And like everybody looks around and we're like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, you know what I mean? And so it's not a big part of the community. And like I said, it's not wholly unjustified because a lot of people in the community became very negative about everything. But there's a certain amount of people that swung that pendulum the opposite way. And if you're not like actively sucking Nikita's dick, they lose their minds.
Yeah. But so anyway, someone also commented that said Darth microtransactions on the podcast when. And I responded, I was like, honestly, that would be fantastic. I really enjoy his content and would love to get him on after some time playing ... Or maybe we get him on early.
Yeah, genuinely. That's what I was thinking.
And then do like a before and after. Yeah, because
that would be so sick to talk to somebody truly brand new to Tarkov. Because there aren't that many. There are a lot of people who are like, one of the most common questions I get in chat is like, haven't played in a year. What's going on? And I'm like, oh, you know, this, that, the other. But to have somebody truly like, where has this game been all my life in 2025?
A week ago. They haven't, it's not their second wipe or only their third wipe.
Yeah. Dude, that would be sick, actually.
It would just be interesting to know, like, what are the things you notice? What are the things you focus on? And what are your pain points? Because he might not say anything about the AI. He won't say anything about the sound. He won't say anything about this and that. It'll be like, I'm overwhelmed with all of the things about like, oh, I have to load magazines and I'm not used to the healing enemies, like all this stuff, right? So I think it would be fascinating. So
that would
maybe
be
we
cool.
should get him on.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, I mean, like, obviously when I say, oh, my sweet summer child, I'm fucking joking.
Yeah.
But like the way that at this point, the way that I think about Tarkov, I'm so far removed from it that like, to me, Tarkov is like, you know, my ex-girlfriend from high school that like, I think back about those memories.
Yeah.
And it's like, there were old, great memories that don't mean.
Yeah.
It's not like this personal thing to me anymore. It's so far in the past.
That's what I was going to ask. Have you reached the point where most of the memories are good memories? It's like, even when you have a really shitty job, when you quit, like a year later, you're like, man, that job sucked. But 10 years later, most of the things you remember were like farting around with your coworkers or like that one time you almost got fired. Like, where is it on that scale?
The problem is that it was like, it got to the point where more than half of the things that were in front of me were frustrating.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was, you know, a tiny amount of things.
Fair,
so I mean, I still, but the way I think about it is like the whole, you know, I would have rather loved and lost than never loved at all.
Yeah.
So the whole idea that like saying, oh, my sweet summer child is in any way being like, you shouldn't play the game.
No.
Like, no, I think like Tarkov is still one of my favorite games of all time. You know, it's just a game that I don't enjoy playing anymore and better off having moved on from. But that I still like talking about it, and
you quite literally did the thing every one of those people says to streamers when they get frustrated, which is like, if you don't like it, just play another game. Like, you've spent 2 years or whatever like playing the games you like. It's like, that doesn't mean you're not allowed to talk about Tarkov. Like, you can still be like, oh, like, make a joke here, or be interested that your friend is getting into it or whatever. Like,
I'm supposed to not play and not talk about it and not have any opinions, and they should take my fucking guitar pick out of the game. And, hey, listen. Well, it's a little bit different now. A year ago, I would say I would let Nikita trade the guitar pick for like a fucking pizza box or whatever. Yeah.
Your legacy is trolling because your item is the smallest, hardest to pick up, and it looks like a Bitcoin.
Dude, yeah, I actually had like 3 people come into my chat like 2 days ago, and like it was probably the same one guy.
Yeah.
And the guy came in and said something, and this is the first time someone mentioned Tarkov even like in a while, so that's why I think it was probably the same guy. Said something along the lines of like, your fucking streamer item is the worst one. I have to think about you every time I pick this up because I think it's a Bitcoin. And I'm like, A, I'm glad that I live rent free in your head, and B, I'm happy that I fucking disappoint you every time in all of your raids. That gives me glee. So
immense joy and glee.
So get fucked.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
But yeah, well, we'll see if maybe DM is interested.
I would be
coming
so
on.
down with that. That'd be cool.
He's a really cool dude. That's I've never
awesome.
talked to him before. I don't know. He doesn't know me or anything, but
yeah,
could be cool. So
that'd be sick. I think the only other like video game related thing is we forgot to talk about it last week, but I saw you had it on here. Did you hear about the marathon plagiarism drama situation? Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, fucking Ripperino. It seems fairly like there's a lot of interesting discussion to be had around vibes and art styles and inspirations and derivative styles and all these things. You can argue that as much as you want, and there is some interesting conversation to be had about it, but they just objectively straight up stole from a female artist that just posted her shit on Twitter.
Yeah.
And they straight ripped off the many things in their entirety.
Yeah. Yeah.
With no ambiguity. Like there's no question.
Yeah. Also, her logo ended up on an asset.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
In the game. On assets in the game. And like, you know how whenever you start like a new text document in Photoshop, it's always like lorem ipsum, whatever. Like she had a couple of art pieces that had like this random company name that it was just like something to put there and like
just flavor.
Yeah, that company name. It's like the lorem ipsum equivalent in assets on the game. So it was as objectively stealing as you can get. And that is exactly to your point. And a lot of people, like a lot of artists that I've seen, have not come to the defense of Bungie, but to try to like quell some of the where the community's gone really rampant. Because it's like, because they were saying, which is like, I'm sure Auntie Real would say herself, like she's taken inspiration from other genres and even maybe some of the old Marathon games. And it's like, art is iteration. But there's a difference between like being inspired by this style and coming up with something similar and coming up with things, posting them on Twitter, and them ending up in a AAA video game unchanged. Like, so they're like exactly like you said, there are interesting conversations to be had around what is inspiration, where is the line, but they jumped over the line. The conversation here isn't about where the line is because they can't see the line anymore. They lifted that shit and put it on shit in their game. So it is really sad to see. Obviously, I got to go to Bungie several times. I've spoken with probably 75 devs. I've met incredible people over there. There are so many people that were so passionate about that game and so passionate about games. So it is so sad. Like, you know what I mean? I want this game to succeed. But this is one of those things where it's just like,
yeah, and I mean,
you gotta call this out. Like, you know what I mean?
So the thing is that like having been at multiple large billion-dollar companies before, with like engineering departments and design departments and shit, like the way that I look at this is, first of all, like Bungie needs to own it. It's a Bungie thing, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the reality of it is something like this, even if it was systematic across multiple games, across multiple years, it could very well be like 1 to 3 people.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like necessarily, I don't think that like the C-suite people are in a meeting at Bungie going, yeah, and let's just save some money and skim off the whatever. Like,
exactly.
I'm sure if they knew about it, they would say, what the fuck, you know? So it's probably like the art director and like maybe a couple people that worked under him or something like that. It's unfortunate and they have to eat shit for it, but to point at like a developer or something. And
a big Destiny YouTuber, my name is Bife, made a video about the situation, and I echo basically every single one of his thoughts. Like, I completely agreed, where it was like, it is inexcusable, it's crossed the line, it's blatant, it's objective, and it needs to be called out, and that person needs to see repercussions or whatever. But at the same time, there's like 1,000 people that work at Bungie. There's a couple hundred people working on Marathon, and to say that like Bungie should shut down or whatever, and like hundreds of people who were completely not involved should lose their jobs and be out, like, that's ridiculous too. You know, Bungie said that it was an artist that no longer works for them put those things on a texture sheet, and that texture sheet ended up being used for like actual stuff in game. Now, an artist that doesn't work for us, like, they fired that person right before they made that press release, or someone that worked there in 2021, because they've been working on Marathon, I think, since 2019. And so the two things are like, one, that person should have been very, very clear that this inspiration sheet or this texture sheet was like, this is artwork from a person. And secondarily, the art department should have like better ways to check for this, because I'm sure creating the art and the art style for a game does mean you're looking around to a lot of things and putting a lot of things on papers and being like, what if it was like this style plus this style? So it's not crazy to think that that would happen really frequently in the early days, but that would mean the system in place would have to have checks for like that stuff not being placed in the game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I don't know. I don't necessarily buy that it would have been like accidental or anything like that, because even then, whoever, I don't know. I just think of like, even at some of the bigger companies, what you end up having is some guy, whether it's the art director or, you know, like in our case, we'd have like the leader of the UI team or the UX team that had like one guy and like 2 young, like junior people working underneath him. Yeah. And he would go off and take like a month, and he'd come back with like a style Bible that was like pages around. Here's the spacing. Here are the fonts. Here's the colors. Here's the iconography. This is the visual language we want to, and it would just be like a little guide to give to the developers to make like the front end website stuff. No one is going to go and check to see if any of that was stolen from fucking the entirety of the internet ever. You just trust the guy isn't a thief and you work with it.
I mean, I see what you mean. Yeah.
You know, so like that kind of ends up being what's happened. Now the thing is that, again, I don't know the history. I'm not necessarily really making like strong arguments, because if this has happened in the past, people are saying it happened in the past. Well, then that would mean that it was potentially a systemic issue that had been called out before. Once that happens, definitely twice, you should have a system in place. Yeah. But I wouldn't expect any particular company to,
apparently this has happened,
like, what, reverse Google image search every possible thing you get, and even then it probably wouldn't match if you sliced it up. And
apparently this has happened 2 or 3 other times at Bungie and Destiny products, but those other times, as I understand it, were when Bungie was outsourcing some of the work to other companies. And
they're also doing that here too as well. They're blaming it on outsourcing.
No, this was a Marathon employee. This was like a Bungie employee working at Marathon, working on Marathon. But that's the distinction they're making, or that some people are making, is that like the other plagiarism things weren't Bungie. It was like people Bungie hired, or people like companies Bungie out. I don't know. Like, please God, if you're listening to this, I'm not an expert on art or game dev or anything. I could be getting details wrong about the thing. It was just interesting news and sad, because I want Marathon to succeed. I want these people to make a good game, and I know they want to as well. But at the same time, those hopes and those fond memories can't, you can't just like not, You can just be like, well, it's fine. No, it sucks.
And here's the thing, like, where do they go from here? I literally see that there's like 2 ways out. Well, 3 ways out. They hire them, which like is already not enough. They pay them a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
As like, sorry, we fucked up. But even then, moving forward, even if she gave you the rights to everything and you paid her, I wouldn't even like want to be playing a game that I knew that everything I was looking at was, stolen.
As I understand it, they are going through every asset in the game, scrubbing every single thing that came from her artwork out of it, and they're compensating her.
Okay. All right. So then I guess like,
well, I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. None of the
character designs. I was just thinking about like, it's so much of the vibe. Now, this is where you get into the derivative conversation and like the style, genre, you know, whatever. But it's like, I almost feel like so many of the assets, so many of the things I saw were like, oh, that was ripped off and that was ripped off and that was ripped off. It's almost like, you just delete the game and move on to something else.
It was realistically more like flavor added to the world. It wasn't like character design or map design. It was just like the flavor to make those things feel a little bit more alive. I mean, it's no small feat.
I mean, it may as well have been every square inch of every texture and color palette,
I'm not saying it's no small feat to do what they said they're doing, but my thing is just like, there's no way they released this game in September, bro. Whatever my feedback on the Marathon Alpha was like, so much needs to change. I don't even know if they have time to change it all before September. And now they have to go through the game and like scrub assets out of it and replace them. And there's going to be a tremendous amount of additional pressure, like for what the game is. If they had any goodwill to like put out like 79% of the game and be like, we'll make the other 21% together, that is seemingly gone. And I was wondering if they could make 79% of what the game needed to be by September. So I don't know nothing about Sony and what, there's a lot of like speculation, which obviously is just like as part of the internet, but like Sony bought Bungie for like $3 billion. Destiny's been underperforming. This is the only like new IP Bungie's worked on in a while. So a lot of people are like, they can't push it back because Sony's going to fire them all if they do. Like, I don't know shit about all of that, but I do just wonder if they've got enough time to make a good enough game by September. Having to deal with all this and with the extra pressure that this brings, however fair or unfair you deem that extra pressure. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know. Arc Raiders, save us. We're all Arcaholics, bro. Arcaholics Anonymous.
Nice. Yeah, this is about as cut and dry of an example of like plagiarism as I remember it. A nearly identical but completely victimless example involving me and one of my. I remember I made a Trackmania map.
Oh.
And I was working with this guy Microvert, and he designed all of the scenery, and all of the assets were basically like, it was like one of those future cities where it was just all buildings with kind of like Japanese style, neon signs, and it was all like pink and blue and yellow and whatever. And then like at the end, my logo was like, the triangle logo was like what you drove through.
Oh, for the finish line. Okay, yeah.
And I remember like a month later, a map came out that had the exact same buildings, like, and all the same signs, and I was like, what the fuck? And I remember going through and like, free camming and just flying, and then all of a sudden behind one of the buildings was my logo floating there. And I was like, what the fuck, man? And it just turns out the guy asked microvert if he could use the assets, but he just thought that was a generic triangle. Like he didn't realize it was a logo. So he just like used it, and it was like
funny.
It's just so funny because he just didn't realize.
Yep.
Obviously, like I didn't design it, I didn't pay for it, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But it was still just like, yo, what the hell?
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It was pretty good.
They did a live stream where they kind of like discussed it a little bit and talked about the game. And you know how like we talked about how like Arc Raiders, that playtest came towards the end of Marathon's playtest, and like the vibe of Marathon's playtest wasn't that good, but the vibe of Arc Raiders was really good. So in the chat while they were doing their stream, everybody was typing Art Raiders, which was like the wombo combo of just like Arc Raiders kind of like mogging Marathon and then the whole art thing. It was rough, man. It was rough.
Well, luckily they didn't do like Arc Raiders didn't do the tone deaf thing and like tweet out like
that would have been brutal.
Talking shit to
that would have been brutal. But that's kind of the video game news. Any other?
Dude, I've got so many little things to touch on. One, I discovered a channel that I'm legitimately pissed at every single one of you motherfuckers for not telling me about this channel before, because the channel is incredible, dude. And there's like a ton of content. They're all like video essays. They're all like an hour or two long, bro. Search for Mooncat, Munecat, I believe.
Okay.
Her church. Okay, brother. It's cool. I think she's British, so she just has an awesome accent. Cool British woman who debunks like cults, pseudoscience, like scams, like MLMs, like the whole toxic masculinity, self-help, like red pill shit, like unbelievable stuff. She fucking plays like the guitar, like the bass, and like does like songs in the middle of her videos. Her sense of humor is unbelievable. She's talking about like real hard peer-reviewed science. She has the sense of humor of a 13-year-old boy. It's the most perfect channel ever, and I cannot believe I didn't hear about this before.
Bro, the first one I saw was Gary V, the youth pastor of capitalism, and I have to watch that video. Okay, Mooncat. It's got the little two dots above the U. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I heard her luckily pronounce it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been sure. But yeah, she just says Mooncat.
Okay.
Dude, her content's so good. I mean, of course, like I'm sure, somewhere between 48 and 52% of our audience probably wouldn't enjoy her content. But holy fuck, was this? It's so good.
That's sick.
So yeah, I would recommend checking her content out if you're into that kind of stuff.
That's sick.
One of the things I did want to get out of the way too, and I might mention this over the next couple of podcasts because it's something I want to bring attention to.
Yeah.
I found out like really bad news a couple of days ago. One of my best friends, he's like a brother to me. He was my neighbor that I grew up with. I think actually, did I even tell the story of my ruptured spleen?
Mm-hmm.
He was the one, basically. So my best friend Billy a week ago I don't know the details of it, and I'm not about to like pry, had kind of a freak accident. I think maybe while he was playing with his kids, I'm not sure, but he fell and he broke his neck, injured his spine. There's a hole, but you see the x-rays, dude. You can see like, it looks like what they put in from like the x-ray was like a sprinkler head with like the spike and like one of the one of those. Yeah. It's just like a spring and it, dude. So now, thank fuck, he is not paralyzed. Within I think a day or two, he was up and walking, which is actually like a miracle.
That is crazy.
Because I mean, dude, you can see there's like 3 literal screws just in his spine. It was really not good. But so they are doing there's a GoFundMe. Now I normally like don't like pitching, on the internet, especially as a content creator, you hear about 700 GoFundMes a day, right?
Yeah.
And you get asked to like promote it. Generally the thing is that I just don't know the people. Usually I don't generally don't trust it enough to want to put my name on something that could very well just be a scam. If it's like a friend of a friend of a friend. Now this personally, these people are my family. Like, I even posted when I posted on Twitter, there's a picture from their GoFundMe, which is like has like their whole family, and then I have my wedding photos with the whole family. So this isn't just some bullshit thing. His brother started a GoFundMe. In like 2 days, they've raised $45,000.
Man,
and it's actually incredible. Like my hometown, it's a who's who of like OGs from my hometown. I've never felt so proud,
dude. That's sick.
Of fucking Nashua, New Hampshire, dude. Than seeing all of these people, all of my friends from junior high school, all pitching in to help Billy, because he really is like an amazing dude. He and the most, like the worst, not the worst part, but one of the hardest things on Facebook, he's got videos showing him like, trying to feed himself, with a spoon and like really struggling. This was the kid that when we were, 10 years old, he had an arm in a sling because he broke his arm. And playing baseball with his arm in a sling with one hand, hit a home run off my dad's RAV4 windshield. One arm. I never hit a home run in my entire baseball fucking career, and he did it one arm. He was like a prodigy in every sport.
That's crazy.
He was just, just a god at every sport. He played, I think, football and baseball for UConn. And to see him like, struggling, it's so if anybody comes to my channel, maybe I can give you a link, and maybe we can put the link in the description.
Mm-hmm.
If you come to my stream and you do !Billy, I'll post a link to the GoFundMe there. If anybody was thinking remotely about subbing to me, spend the $5 on the GoFundMe instead. If anybody else is feeling generous for any reason and you want to help out someone who's like really close to me, who's family, it would mean the world to me. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
For sure. That's so brutal.
Something that's kind of wild, dude, that I want to follow up on. So the whole Jeranism.
Yeah. Okay.
So Jeran is the flat earther that went to Antarctica, kind of deconverted. I had him a week or two ago.
Yep.
On my stream because I wanted to interview him, and we already talked a few episodes back. The whole plan for the discussion was for me to basically like interview him about his experience deconverting, his kind of mindset about things. And like 25 to 30 minutes in, after asking him a couple questions, we were going back and forth. I was explaining to him because he kept saying something about how he considers himself a skeptic.
Yes.
And what he meant when he was saying skeptic was that he basically like doesn't accept like any mainstream science by default. And it's like, okay, well, just like, so you're aware that isn't necessarily what a lot of people mean when you're talking about either science, philosophy, epistemology, when you're talking about a skeptic, maybe with like a capital S. And I was describing to him scientific skepticism is a position in which one questions the veracity of claims lacking scientific evidence. It commonly refers to the examination of claims and theories that appear to be unscientific. So basically, in a nutshell, I was explaining like, when I use the term skeptic or skepticism, I'm referring to basically withholding judgment on any claims until sufficient, what's the word I'm looking for? Proportional evidence is given, right? If you tell me you went to DQ for ice cream earlier today, I don't need 9 security camera angle footages of you going for me to believe you, right? But if you tell me aliens are real and you met them, I would like a photograph from your iPhone, please, right? At least. At least. Now, immediately when I was saying that, he kind of interrupted me and started asking me about dark matter.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And it just went completely off the rails, totally downhill to the point where he was basically like, "Do you believe in dark matter?" And then at one point, he monologued for 6 minutes straight. Dark matter, dark energy, gravity, COVID vaccine, blah, blah, this, like all of them. And I was just like sitting there, like trying to get a word in, and afterwards I was like kind of exhausted and was like, and I said, I don't know, half a dozen times, I'm like, bro, I'm not prepared or educated enough to like debate you about fluoride conspiracies.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested in debating you at all. I want to ask you questions, right? And he insisted on trying to grill me for some reason. I don't know if it was me explaining what scientific skepticism was. I think he felt like attacked.
Yeah.
Or something. Well, so fast forward. Now, the end of that conversation ended well. Everything was cool. I was watching him discussing with this other guy, Dave McKeegan, who is a guy that makes really good kind of debunking content. He's like a professional photographer. He had 2 discussions with Jeran well, they were kind of both streaming, talking about the moon landing, because Jeran still doesn't believe, as of this conversation that they were having, didn't believe the moon landing was real. And so Dave was like having a conversation, walking him through all the evidence for the moon landing, answering his questions. And what was interesting is that so Dave McKeegan was one of the people that went down to Antarctica. So he has a relationship. They met in real life. They spent a lot of time together.
There's the human connection for sure.
And if he had a question about something with the moon landing, right, he would say, "Hey, Dave, here's something that I don't quite understand. I don't quite get. Can you explain it?" And then Dave would explain. And if there were any confusion or complication, he would ask, "Well, what I'm kind of thinking is this. What's your response? What's your explanation?" Me and Jeran were having a lot of the same exact conversations, and I was saying almost the exact same things as Dave was.
Yeah.
But Jeran was approaching the conversation completely differently. It was never clearly the assumption with Dave was that Jeran is probably wrong and he wants Dave to educate him. With me, it was, I can't be wrong.
Yeah.
So I need to debunk you and kind of attack you.
Yeah.
Now, again, everything ended well. I was watching those videos, and it seemed to be towards the end that Jeran was getting close to maybe 50-50, not sure if the moon landing happened or not. He was still on the moon landing didn't happen, but approaching after 5 or 6 hours of them talking. And a bunch of things they were talking about were orbital mechanics and a few things about how Apollo got to the moon.
Okay, yeah.
And I literally hit pause on the video because I was kind of live reacting to it. And I opened up Telegram and I sent him a message. I was like, "Bro, I'm reminding you of the offer I gave you before to either buy you Kerbal Space Program, or we can get on a call sometime on stream or off stream or whatever, and I can reenact the Apollo mission in Kerbal Space Program, and that will give you a much more intuitive understanding of physics in space and orbital mechanics, because it's really something that's totally not intuitive. But as soon as you implement the real physics in the game, and you see the way it works, and you see if I thrust in this direction, you'll see the orbit line grow in this way or this way. It's so much more intuitive. And just the idea of when you throw something on Earth, if it's light, it goes whoop, stops and then falls. That just isn't how things move in space.
Yep.
You go like this and it goes forever, right? And so there are just so many things that just aren't intuitive.
Yeah.
So I made that offer and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I hit play on the video after I wrote a big long thing being I would love to do it. It'll be super helpful. Hit play. And he was like, yeah, these conversations are great. Like not like the conversation I had with that guy. He's talked about me 3 or 4 times, and every time he seems to forget my name, and I can't tell if he's genuinely forgetting my name or if that's one of those kind of like disrespect things. I can't really tell. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he just, I'm not that memorable. And he was like, not like that conversation I had with that guy last week for like 5 hours, where the entirety of the conversation was him annoyed with me that I wouldn't just accept what the science said, that I wouldn't just blindly accept science.
Oh no.
And I'm like,
yeah,
he can't be talking about me, but who else did he talk to for 5 hours last week? So then I actually messaged him, and I'm like, I can't believe that that's like what you took away from our conversation. And if that is, and like I did what I thought was like the sort of humble, intellectually honest thing. And I said, if I gave you that impression, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was not my intention. All of this stuff that, whatever. And he basically like came at me like 0 to 60. After we had a little bit of a back and forth, he was like, you're way in over your head. You don't know what you're talking about. You're clueless. You're confused. Like, and I'm like, eventually I just got to the point where I'm like, bro, like, I remember how we were talking at one point about like how cool it would be for me to be like start a show with this guy.
Yeah.
Like a podcast with this guy or something about, and all of a sudden I'm like, what happened? Like, I didn't like, he clearly like hates my guts.
Dang.
And that's not how our conversation ended.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It ended kind of on good vibes, right?
Yeah. And we had talked since then. We had talked a bunch, and then he had had good conversations, and then he had this thing with Dave, and then summarized. And I'm like, is that the way you took it? And he was like, oh, yeah, honestly, bro, I didn't enjoy our conversation at all. Yeah, let me see. Where did he say?
That's crazy.
I was like, whoa, it was just out of nowhere. And he responded with, yeah, that he didn't enjoy it. He thought it was boring, even though like he ran the conversation. He controlled the conversation. I kept saying, I don't want to debate this. I don't want to argue this. And he was just like, nope, you have to defend fluoride in the water and dark matter. And I'm like, bro, neither you nor I are fucking qualified to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just straight up was like, man, I don't understand why you're being so like toxic and disrespectful. Like I was like actually interested in engaging with you.
Yeah.
And at no point, and anybody can come into my channel and do the exclamation point Jeran, Jeran.
Yep.
I have a highlight of the 5-hour conversation. You can watch it. There are times where I got animated like I do, like I am now. I get animated, but at no point did I ever insult him. At no point do I ever think I came off as condescending or anything. For the most part, there were a few times where I was like, because, when he would monologue for 6 minutes and then go, oh, and then also COVID and then fluoride in the water. And then I'm like, how am I supposed to respond to 6 minutes of monologuing about 5 things, each one of them requiring a PhD?
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I just actually don't understand why you were being so fucking disrespectful and toxic. And he said, well, we have a different idea of what respectful is. Go watch it again. You came across like some Mensa member who had to interview the dumb flat earther.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I guess we just like, I'm not going to bother you anymore because apparently we see the world totally differently. Like you just rewrite history. I was just the problem is talking to him. Yeah. He went turtle mode and instantly turned back into a cult member conspiracy theorist. Yeah. But when he goes to talk with Dave, he's like a seemingly rational, reasonable guy. And what was really interesting was one of the things he actually admitted before it kind of popped off was that he's actually believed the moon landing was real for a while now. He just didn't want to basically admit it because that would look bad if he had already changed his mind so quickly. And I'm like, so you have this impression, you're giving off like false impressions to people and then criticizing the people when they're like, how can you still believe these things that are ridiculous when they are obviously as ridiculous as the flat earth? and he's like mad at people.
That's so
and it's like,
brutal.
You're not even representing your own beliefs fairly or accurately, to the point where of course people are going to be like, what the fuck? So it just was super disappointing, and now I'm it's unlikely I'll ever talk to the guy again.
That's crazy. That's not what I thought. Yeah, that like how that was going to go, because I popped in a few times during your conversation with him. We talked a lot about it after it happened, and you definitely gave off the impression that it was like a little all over the place for a little bit of it, but it ended well, and there was like a mutual respect at the end. And I know like your vibe going in was very much so like, that you didn't want this conversation to be like, all right, so you were wrong about flat earth. Let me convince you about all the other things you were wrong about. It wasn't
Exactly.
that. The vibe was you admit that you were wrong about flat earth. Like, how has that process been? How has that made you feel about the other things that you believe and stuff like that? So it's like, on one hand, I kind of understand the sensitivity and just like the, he's obviously free falling in what can he hold on to? What are the things? Where are the truths? What things can I hold on to and trust that I'm holding on to the right thing? I went through a stage of that myself, and I can also understand how a person you've met and spent time with, that person, your guard can kind of come down a little bit more. It just sucks that concoction caused this chemical reaction where for some reason he viewed you as enemy. And it's seemingly, no matter what you do, that's how he views you. Like,
he even admitted it in our conversation, because there was something, funnily enough, I was trying to explain to him. I remember actually the whole equatorial mount thing.
Yeah.
He went on to talk with Dave like 2 days later, and Dave explained it to him, and he was like, oh, okay, I totally get it. And admitted, but he never really quite admitted that he was wrong about it. But that was another one of those things that he was like, bro, you're in over your head. You don't know what you're talking about. You're confused.
Yeah.
And so like, he interprets what a lot of people, including me, had said, which is like, actually, I never said this. I thought it, but I never said it to him. Because I never wanted to come off as judgmental, or I only ever said how much respect I had and admiration I had for him, like being intellectually honest, even from before he became, a Glober.
Yeah.
I always thought he was the intellectually honest one in the community, because he would like be a fair moderator in debates, which I think is a good indicator of someone who's like not super biased.
Yeah.
But when he basically is like, all these Globers are mad at me that I haven't just accepted everything in the scientific community now, that I'm not just like a sheep believer in all the things. And the problem is that that's not what anybody expects or wants from him.
Yeah.
The thing is that what he says is, of course, flat earth is ridiculous. Flat earthers are so stupid to ever have believed this. They're a cult. So he's kind of like tone deaf to the fact that like he forgets what it was like to be him.
Yeah.
He's like, how could they ever believe this? And part of that discussion I wanted to have with him was how, like, I thought that there might be interesting sort of cognitive dissonance there. We never got to that discussion. But really what your takeaway should be is, it shouldn't be, oh, all these conspiracy theories are all wrong, and now I should accept the opposite. I should accept the official story about everything. The default should be, my foundational thought process was so flawed for a decade or more. So what I should do is throw everything out and start from neutral scratch.
Yeah.
And then start taking information, because like when he talks about things now, even things that agree with the globe that he accepts, he still reverts to like misquoting Einstein and like doing all this shit that's like, all of his other beliefs are tainted by the same wrong thought process, and yet he doesn't apply the same logic and reasoning to like, I arrived here with this thought process and it was so wrong, and I was in a cult for a decade.
Yeah.
All of these things I ostensibly arrived at with the same conspiratorial thought process, but I'm going to hold on to them as default, and I need to then make my way out one at a time. It's like, no, you should just assume that those aren't real. And by all means, assume that the scientific community is also should be neutral.
Yeah.
but he takes that
Yeah.
the wrong way and thinks that we're just dismissing science cucks. So, I mean, I don't know.
That's tough.
So disappointing. Dude.
That's tough.
So disappointing.
Yeah.
It just demonstrates honestly that he still really is ultimately, like, at heart the same flat earther without the name.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, the point is, if you were debating him when he was a flat earther, you would have had pause and reservations if you said, no, the earth is not flat, it's round. And he just went, oh, okay. Like, you would have been like, no, don't just believe what somebody says. Like, do you understand? Like, even if he came to your side, you would have been like, but like, do you understand? Because these are genuine questions and they have genuine answers. And the more we understand, the better. So the assumption that anybody would want him to just believe everything is wrong. No, the point is that the journey of finding answers to the questions you had and finding that there were answers and that it does make sense, that was cool. And all these other things you can do that for. It's not just, oh, well, I'm wrong, I have to believe it. No, it's like, just be honest about asking the questions, ask them with an open hand instead of a closed fist, and see if there's answers out there. It's not about just believing anything without, like, intrinsically. It's like, you can ask the questions, you can search, and there are answers.
Yeah. And what I really wanted to do, I wanted to actually have some interesting conversations around, like, and of course I completely, like, missed the mark on what my prediction was, but basically what I wanted to do was say, like, now you know the earth is round. I want to talk about the way you view the 50 arguments that you've been espousing. Like, do you know now why all 50 of them are wrong?
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't say that, right?
Yeah.
But we got into a couple things, and what was really funny was the moment we started talking about whether it was the EQ mount or whether it was like boats over the horizon, you know, on the ocean, and how that demonstrates curvature and how that would be different if we lived on a flat earth, because one would be perspective shift, whereas the other is bottom down obstruction. And when we would talk about those things that support his side now, he completely reverted to defending the flat earther position, getting mad at me and being like, no, it was bizarre. It was so bizarre because what he was doing was, it's almost like he forgot that he was a glober.
Yeah.
And was like, because I would say, like, when you look at this thing that is like a visual representation of like what it would look like on a flat earth, like with the EQ mount.
Yeah.
And the sun did this thing in the sky like this. Which is like, the sun doesn't do that, right?
Yeah.
The sun kind of does this or this. It never does, you know, that. And when he saw that, he was like, yeah, but that's not what the sun does. And I was like, exactly. And he's like, but no one thinks that's what the sun does. And I'm like, no, but this is what would be true if the flat earth model existed and you were there looking. This is what it would look like. And he's like, no, but perspective doesn't work this way, and this is what flat earthers believe, and blah, blah. And it's like, but we're not talking about, like, he kept saying what flat earthers believe, but actually that had nothing to do with the conversation. Because I wanted to talk about, now that we know the earth is round, how do we reconcile this example with a round earth? And he was like, that isn't what flat earthers believe. And he got defensive about that. And it's like, that has nothing to do with anything. It was so bizarre. And so, like, I think that's largely why that, and like a lot of me being flabbergasted about him gish galloping 75 conspiracy theories all at once when I wanted to ask him questions, not defend my worldview that he misunderstands. Combination of that and him thinking that, like, I was attacking him when I was trying to get him an understanding of, like, bro, if you really want to believe the earth is round, you should know why. And the problem is that when he talks to other flat earthers, because he's been interviewing a bunch of ex-flat earthers, he talks about certain things and he gets them wrong.
Yeah.
So he's a glober for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah, it really just feels like it came down to like his presumption of you, his like monkey brain reaction to you was like enemy. And so everything was filtered through that. Every like tone was misunderstood to be passive aggressive. Every question was misunderstood to be an attack. And it's just one of those things where it sucks that sometimes what somebody else thinks of you is inescapable. Like, you know what I mean? And I bet to a certain degree, you actually trying really hard to not present that way because his view of you was already that way. There's a rationalization, which is you're condescending.
Yeah.
Whereas you were like in your brain, you were like going out of your way to be like, hey, don't like judge him. Don't go down these rabbit holes. Like genuinely come from a place of understanding. But he wasn't coming from a place. He wasn't looking at you being like, all right, don't judge him. He's not trying to be a dick. Come from a place of understanding. He was like enemy. So he probably interpreted that and it just sometimes at the end of the day, you can't escape that, and that sucks.
Yeah.
Because because the whole misunderstanding the whole thing comes down to a misunderstanding. Like the reason you guys couldn't have a good conversation was nothing. It was vapor. It was just interpretation. It wasn't like a thing, you know?
And me wanting to talk to him was based on the fact that like he was one of the few people that seemed like a human.
Yeah.
Because of he was talking about how he was being treated and how he was being gaslit by all these flat earthers saying you were never a flat earther, you're a grifter, you're a liar, you know, you never believed this and that, like how much that sucks. And yet here I am going, man, I really feel bad that you like misunderstood where I was coming from, or that I didn't even say that. I didn't say I'm sorry you feel that way. I made it very careful to say I'm sorry I gave you that impression, even though I don't think I did.
Yeah.
I honestly, now I'm saying it now, so be it. But before I was thinking that, but I didn't say that. I said I'm sorry if I gave you that impression.
Yeah.
That's my bad. If there was a misunderstanding, I must not have been communicating properly.
Yeah.
I did everything to be as gracious as like what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. To give him as much grace as possible.
Yeah.
But it's just weird because the way he's acting now, it's almost like, and this is kind of something I wanted to talk about, the fundamental concept without going about it in the way I'm going to describe it now.
Yeah.
But he went down to Antarctica, saw the 24-hour sun, came back and said, and then got the treatment from the flat earth community and said, I'm a glober now. And he touches on the fact that what he says now, his mantra now is, I was a flat earther because I believed that the South was a lie, that you couldn't go. And it's like, and yet there's 10 years of you making content, 8 years of him making content, talking about 97 bad arguments. And he almost, very rarely talked about the South. And, and very often he's like, I wouldn't have been a flat earther if people had told me this and people had told me this and people had told me this. And I was like, I watched your first debate. He said all of those things to you.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately the how you walk away from this is like, those two things are true. A, the video is up of your conversation with him. If anybody wants to audit that, and two, that he has a pattern of misrepresenting just about everything. He's saying he was only a flat earther because of this, and then he made content. It's like not even like you found his text messages. It's like he's got YouTube videos of him saying other things. He said he never would have done it if this argument was made to him. There's videos of him debating people where someone's making those arguments. So like that's what you hold.
And I still, and through all of that, I don't I'm not willing to say he's a liar or he's dishonest.
Yeah.
I think, and this is one of the things I really wanted to touch on, I think he doesn't fully understand his own deconversion.
Yeah.
I think that because he places almost all of his deconversion from seeing the sun and then saying, oh, okay, this proves the earth is round.
Yeah.
When really, I actually think that, and again, I'm not saying he's lying. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we go to therapists for them to tell us things about ourselves we don't realize. And not that I'm his therapist or whatever, but the sense that I get, especially from all my research into this thing and seeing him over the course of 8 years, his content, he attributes very little to the fact that he came back and got gaslit, conspiracy theoried by his own cult. I think that was the thing that unlocked the cognitive dissonance in his head and allowed him to see it. And he's like, no, bro, it's all about the evidence. So, because what he says, and this is demonstrated when he says, you would, you know, this would all not be a problem if they just put a 24-hour live stream in Antarctica.
Yeah. Or on the moon.
Or on the moon.
Yeah.
And it's like, but bro, you had videos put in front of you and you wouldn't accept it. And he came back from Antarctica and he even acknowledged earlier in the conversation that 5% or less of the flat earthers who were like fans of his had their mind changed.
Yeah.
So what they had was someone who they trusted, who was on their side, come back and give them their personal testimony.
Yeah.
Along with digital photographic evidence, you know, like terabytes of it, and 95+% of them don't accept it. And you think that the government putting a live stream is going to change their mind? How does that exist in your brain at the same time?
Yeah.
It's just so sad because I was so, dude, to me it was like, oh my God, we got one.
Yeah.
And he's kind of just has like a pinky toe out of the cult, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's enough of that.
No, I feel you. That is unfortunate. Yeah,
dude.
that's unfortunate that the vibe shift happened that dramatically. Damn.
Yeah. So the last thing I did want to talk about is today, because I did a lot of driving.
Yeah.
I finally listened to the Sleep Token album from start to finish. So here's the thing. I want to walk through real quick the way I experienced this album.
Yeah.
Because it's like it was a journey, right? So I listened to the first song that came out, and we talked a bunch about it. I had some hot takes on it that I think were hot takes, and I've changed my mind about. I thought most of the song was good. There were a couple things that bugged me.
Yeah.
Since then, I've got over 98%, 99% of it. Another song came out. I listened to it. I really liked the style. There were some parts of it that were like, wasn't quite, what I liked. The third single came out, which I think was Damocles.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, that song is fire.
Yeah.
And then, however long later, the whole album came out. And on stream, I just like hit play and sort of listened while I was playing. And that's like a different experience.
For sure.
Because when you just listen to it, I can't listen to the music and lyrics the first time and really digest the lyrics.
No.
A, because sometimes it's hard to hear.
Yep.
And B, because like...
just takes some time.
Yeah.
To kind of like cycle through each of the things you want to listen to. The guitar, the melody, the rhythm, the lyrics, like...
Yeah, so, and there were some like creative musical decisions in a few places that I was kind of like, I kind of wish they did a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, but that was mostly based on the music.
Yeah.
And then, but I got to the penultimate and semi-penultimate tracks. That's one of my favorite words I learned. Semi-penultimate. the second to last. No, sorry, the
second to most important.
Second to last and the third to last.
Oh, yeah, okay.
No, wait, sorry. The ultimate is the last one. The penultimate is the second to last. Semi-penultimate is the third last. Yeah, sorry. I just remember my dad teaching me that when I was like 14 and being like, that's such a cool word. I'm going to use that once. And and I got it, and of course I get it wrong here. But anyway, so there was Damocles and then Gethsemane. Which have you since found out what that means?
Oh, no. I mean, it's definitely like a Bible word.
So it's the
Garden of Gethsemane, right?
It's the garden in Jerusalem where I think Jesus went to pray right before he was betrayed by Judas.
Yes.
Which should give you context about the lyrics.
Yeah.
And then we did on the Patreon.
Yep.
Which episode I think is a lot of people's favorite, where Jesse live reacted to my two favorite songs, Damocles and Gethsemane. Like live reacted to those two songs, and we talked about that for the whole time.
Yeah.
And then that was like really kind of my third or fourth time listening to those songs, and then even then was like, because you were listening, I was vibing, but I could read the lyrics, get some more context. I was like, wow, these songs are even better than I thought.
Yep.
And then I went back today, watched or listened to all of the songs, and was referencing the lyrics, and I don't know if I want to say it's just as good as Take Me Back to Eden, but it's the album. I'm gonna go ahead and say the album in totality is a masterpiece. And
yes, bro. Yes.
Oh my God. Like knowing the lyrics of the songs and the general stories. So actually what I was doing today is, I was listening to this one particular channel react to it.
Okay.
Which obviously, like, we talk about how much I like the react videos, but what he was doing was listening to them in pieces, pausing them, reading the lyrics, and talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Which gives me a lot more context. And then I went back through after and listened to the whole album, like, naked, basically.
Yeah.
And it just gave me so much more perspective on the story. And so, like, one of the things that I completely sort of flipped on, I don't want to say flipped on, but went from like a 3 to like a 10 after like listening to it twice more.
Yeah.
Was the ending of Caramel.
I
had talked a bunch about the ending where it gets like alternates between like the chorus and then a really, really heavy part, and then the chorus, and I was talking about like the tonality of it. And honestly, now knowing what the lyrics are, knowing what the song is about, and then hearing it at the end, I'm like, no, I don't. I'm so glad you can't fucking hear anything at the end.
Yeah.
Like emotionally, that is what they intended, and that was the right call.
Yeah. Because
it's ultimately like, it's the dichotomy of the whole story of the song is the dichotomy of knowing how fortunate you are to basically have achieved your dream.
Yep.
While it being a nightmare dealing with the bullshit that comes with fame that you didn't really ask for and kind of tried to protect yourself against by wearing a mask and having this identity.
Yep.
But like knowing, I don't know how many of these you've like looked up the lyrics, because I listened to a bunch of them a ton and like still don't know a lot of the lyrics.
Yeah.
But when they get called out, like that whole song is basically about how difficult it is for them to like have fans and the fame and all that stuff. But like one of the lines is, every time they try to shout my real name just to get a rise from me.
Mm-hmm.
Because last year, remember, his name,
a bunch of people were doxing him and stuff.
A bunch of people were doxing him, and basically, you know, I'm sure he'd be at concerts or whatever, and people would yell his name, and that's just like how much that would suck. And just like him, you know, acting like I'm never stressed out by the hearsay. I guess that's what I get for trying to hide in the limelight. Guess that's what I get for having 20/20 hindsight. Everybody wants eyes on them. I just want to hear you sing that top line.
Yep.
Which has to be like, I'm sure it's going to be such an epic moment live.
Oh yeah.
When it's just like, fuck, you know, he's saying like, fuck the haters. You know, there's actually like a real difficult challenge that he has to deal with. But like, you know, fuck it. anyway, I appreciate
Yeah.
like you guys
Yep.
being here and enjoying it. But yeah, dude, it's so good. The lyrics to Even in Arcadia.
I've only listened to that one once.
Okay, so first of all, I went back and listened. I forgot. I only listened to them once, and all of them were like, "Oh, okay, cool. Oh, I like that. Okay,
Yeah.
what's the next one? What's the next one?" Without really listening to them all, I was like,
Yes.
"Oh, I remember this one being really good, and this one being." They're all so fucking good.
Yep.
Like so good.
Yep.
Bro, let me read the lyrics, some of the lyrics at least, for Even in Arcadia. That's a song I wish was like 3 times longer because it's so good. It opens with, "Come now, swing wide those gates, because I have paid my penance kindly well in time for Judgment Day. Somehow I knew my fate. Turns out the gods we thought were dying were just sharpening their blades.
Bars.
I am the final dawn, I am the flood, and what was missing from those scriptures will be written in my blood. Dig down into the mud. What good is all this talk of wings when there's nothing left above?"
Oh.
No matter how we feel, we've got a taste for one another and a few good years to kill. No matter what is real, it seems that even in Arcadia, you walk beside me still. Have you been waiting long for me? Like, dude, fuck, man. Like,
Yeah.
all of the songs are so good.
Carbide on my Nano. Yeah.
You know what? So actually, I've been trying to reconcile that. So one of the things that the guy was talking about that I want to follow up on.
Yeah.
He had mentioned something about parts of the album, maybe, and I don't know if like this was something he read or this was his just like interpretation, or if this has any basis in it, but it kind of was like, I wonder. He said something about like the dichotomy of like wanting to fight against, like the only way that he could fight against the gods basically were like embracing the like digital artificial, and I was like,
Interesting.
like could that, like there's a way, there's a world in which those lyrics could actually be incredible, but but think about it. I don't necessarily think this is the case.
Yeah.
But like, imagine if the song was ironic, basically being like, I'm going to talk about techno digital babble speak almost in an ironic way.
Yeah.
As like some kind of, and it's like, wait, is this song actually based and like good as fuck? Or like, it's like intentionally cringe?
I mean,
I'm not sure. It probably isn't, but
I mean, my assumption is that at least to him, it has some meaning that if he explained to me, I'd be like, holy shit, that's sick. Once again, no shade, I get it, but just the dichotomy of like the emergence came out and you were like, what is this chat GPT ass shit? And then now you're like, every word on this album is gospel. I'm literally not even judging. But that is exactly why I was like, I don't want to even like know a song more than other songs until the album comes out, because I just want to like go through the whole thing over and over and over and over again and catch those little pieces here and there. Yeah. Every time I listen to any of the songs, I like them more than I listened to them the previous time. Gethsemane, I think, is my favorite song on the album. That song fucks. Yeah, I love that song, dude.
I think it's Overcome Damocles. It's so good.
It's so good.
And like, so I'll read a few of those lyrics too real quick, because it's just unbelievable, dude. I wanted you to know I've learned to live without it, and even though it's colder now, I no longer feel surrounded. And you never listened to me, and that's the thing I tell the others. You were my harlequin bride. I was your undercover lover, but no. You never saw me naked. You wouldn't even touch me, except if you were wasted. But you were trying your best, and that's the thing I tell the others. I was your robot companion. You were my favorite color. Like, and I was trying my best, and that's the thing I tell the mirror. I was in love with the thought that we were in love with each other.
Yep.
Dude, so good. I have to ask, have you listened to Infinite Baths yet?
I actually haven't because the only time I've listened to the song has been in the car with the family. Like I put on a couple of them, but I knew based on what you had said that one kind of goes crazy. And so I will listen to it though.
So I will say, now that I understand the story, I think it might be, especially if they're like gonna release part 2. I don't know if that's real. But especially if there's gonna be another 8 or 10 tracks or something, then I think Infinite Baths is the right song for the final,
for the outro. Yeah.
Just now knowing the whole story.
Yeah.
Just this whole thing about like how hard it is to have this dichotomy of success with this weird like sort of misery that comes with the success you always wanted, and then Damocles being the, so that's Caramel, which comes after Damocles, which is the song about the guy who like wants to take over some god's throne or something.
Yeah.
And there's the sword that's hung above his head, hung by a single strand of hair, representing like the risk that comes with the accumulation of power, like the responsibility, and like the challenge, the risk that comes with basically having an audience, or as well as like, then there's Provider, which is basically like, I want to put everything into like this relationship. I want to be the guy who does everything, gives everything to you. Everything is so great. Then fucking, Gethsemane, which is basically like, oh, this relationship we had was entirely one-sided.
Yeah.
And part of the lyrics of that's so like heart-wrenching is, one, he's basically saying that like it was a one-sided relationship, and at the same time he's saying, I've accepted it. Like, I wanted you to know I've learned to live without it.
Yeah.
Is the opening line, and he repeats it later on, saying like he accepts it. But then he ends the song, and I've learned to live beside it, and even though it's over now, I will always be reminded. So it's like he's moved on, but still not to the extent where it's not going to be something he will have to remember forever.
It's like moved on, but he knows it's still a part of him.
Which is so true, right? Like, I've moved on from all of these experiences in my life that I'll still never forget, that will always be something I'll have to think. So it's like this kind of bittersweet, like I've moved on, but I've also recognized I'm going to be in a way damaged or affected forever.
Yeah.
And then, and then Infinite Baths. Oh my God. I actually, there's a couple of lines at the end that I'll say that you wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
Even knowing what they are, I don't understand them. But I want to read, unless you don't want me to, a couple of lines. All this glory you did not earn, every lesson you did not learn, you will drown in an endless sea. If it's blood that you want from me, you can empty my arteries. Will you halt this eclipse in me? Teeth of God, blood of man, I will be what I am.
Oof.
And then it's just 5 minutes of power drill in your skull.
Oh my God.
Oh man, dude.
Dude, they're so good.
Yeah, I it's so weird how like it's almost this is I never want to approach the like what's the band that did that song that
Tool. Schism. I know who the pieces fit.
I never want to approach Tool levels of cult delusional when it comes to any band.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
there is I recognize that this is like approaching the line where I want to say the Sleep Token fans like overall have the same kind of like they are a cult. Actually, when I was in Disney, dude, I walked by, there was a dude walking the other way and he had a Sleep Token shirt. I was like, yo, sick shirt. He's like, yeah, worship. I was like, yeah, dude. It was funny. But there's something to be said about an album in its totality and a story that it tells that to me is almost like transcends the songs themselves.
Yeah.
That like now that I really have the full perspective of the meaning and the story instantly changes the way that I experience it.
For sure.
And it's hard. It almost feels like this album should be like a play or a movie. Dude. Like it needs to be like when they go in tour, they have to play every song in order. Like, right? How could they not?
Yeah.
It almost feels like it needs to be told that way.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
Fans are not more culty than Tool fans. You fucking go.
Not yet.
Fuck yourself.
Not yet. That's what I'm saying. We need the Las Vegas Sphere multi-medium experience. Sleep Token playing the album beginning to end with like video and aerosol and rain and all the different shit they got going on in there.
When you buy the CD and you go to hit like forward track to go listen to track 1 and then track 5, it's like no, it just goes 2. You're like no, 5, 6, 7, 2, and like no, dude. You can only listen. It's digitally enforced DRM. You have to listen to their song. Like when you put the non-Nespresso pods, the non-DRM, and it's like nope.
I will not make this coffee.
Yeah, when you put like a fucking PlayStation disc in your like DVD-R and you try to burn it onto like a Blu-ray when you were like 11, and that never worked. We need that DRM on Sleep Token vinyls and discs, and Spotify needs to be like, no, you can't listen. No, but obviously I'm joking. But dude, it's
man,
basically everything about the album is good except for Carbide on My Nano and the snare being a 16th off. But even those I can tolerate now.
Yeah, because there's
I can tolerate it.
Then it's worth tolerating.
But they're objective.
Because I love Emergence. I love that song.
Yeah, dude.
I love that song.
Is real good. And honestly, Caramel was like the one that like I was like, kind of. But now knowing, like I when he says, okay, I actually have a question. When he says like stick to me like caramel, how do you interpret that?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't been on your journey yet where I've like listened to it enough and really like thought about the lyrics enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it has something to do with that relationship. You know what I mean? With like that relationship with the fans. Obviously, a lot of the lyrics in that song are about the challenges and burdens and the frustrations. But at the same time, it's like he needs them as much as they need him type shit. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Like the chorus is, so stick to me like caramel, walk beside me till you feel nothing as well. And I can't tell if when he says like stick to me, I interpreted it one way at first, and now I'm maybe kind of sort of maybe interpreting it a different way. Before it was almost like stick with me and like almost as if it was like an appreciation for the fans, but there's also a way in which he's saying like, I'm rent free in your head, motherfucker. Like you can stick to me all you want. Stick to me. You're going to feel nothing if you keep this up. So I interpret it now as if he's basically like, you can follow me around and say whatever you want to me, but like you're just going to be as empty as I am in the end, which makes me like the song almost a lot more in a way.
Yeah.
Because it's less a little corny and more a little like shit's fucked up and it sucks.
Yeah.
And fuck the haters and like it's real. And, you know, because honestly, in a way, I can kind of identify with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, knowing that whole vibe, and it wasn't until I learned the line, because this changed everything for me. I thought it was about the challenge of just like being in the limelight.
Yeah.
But when he says every time they try to shout my real name just to get a rise for me, I was like, oh, this is about something a little different.
Yeah.
Knowing that and then hearing the end where it's just like,
yeah,
I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, I
get it,
bro.
Yeah. So good, so freaking good. Well, if you enjoyed this conversation and like V said earlier, you are interested in a live reaction and 50 minutes of discussion on Damocles and Gethsemane, then Patreon/the Pogcast pod. There's all sorts of stuff over there. We do early ad-free access to these episodes and additional episodes every week. And this most recent episode was, I hadn't heard those songs yet. We listened to them in their entirety. We talked about it. The album is great. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks for being a part. Thank you again to Ridge for sponsoring this episode. And conversations have been all over the place recently, and it's been great. It's been great. Gaming, music, current event, news, all sorts of stuff. So we hope you guys appreciate it. We hope you guys like it. We appreciate you. And you guys, we will see y'all on the next one. Peace.